going to call to the stage Mr. Mohamed Elegazy, who's the moderator for a panel of rock stars, no less, talking about modern and mega data centers. So Mohamed, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Actually, I'm going to do something new. I'm going to mix between Arabic and English, since we have guests from the US and other countries, and then the majority here are youth from Egypt and the Middle East. So today, we are starting something new, something that I really appreciate that Osama did, which is bringing the new technology, the AI, and the modern data center to the Middle East. So the data center is one of the most bankable projects in the world. It's very profitable, it's a long term, and it needs lots of things, investments and many players. The ecosystem is really huge. So this panel, we are going to cover the difference between data centers that we used to build back in the 90s and the modern data centers. I flew from Northern Virginia, and if you were following Ahmed Abdelatif's presentation, you would have seen that Northern Virginia is all the way up. Just to give you an idea, the net IT megawatt in Northern Virginia exceeds 2.6 megawatt. That represents about 26% of Northern Virginia capacity. So 26% of the consumption in a state goes to data centers. That's a huge number. Small city, which is Ashburn, Virginia, it's about 15 kilometers where I live, has more than 1.2 gigawatt of power. Just to put things into perspective, 1 gigawatt is enough for 10 million houses. So, you can imagine a state with 2.6 megawatts of power just going for data centers. So today, we are bringing top-notch design teams from all over the world, local and team from the US, and also we're bringing data centers owners, data center tenants, and developers too. I'm going to switch to Arabic now, and in particular, I want to talk to the youth here. بالنسبة للشباب اللي موجودين, I really advise you إن أنتوا تحضروا السيشنز والبانلز والدiscussions. I want you to reach out للتيمز اللي موجودين هنا, هو اتكلموا معاهم. As Ahmed and Osama and Ahmed Mikki and Dr. Shaker said, this is the future. The region is behind. احنا متأخرين هنا, ما فيش شك. لو كنا بنتكلم على data centers موجودة دلوقتي في أمريكا 300 ميجاوات each, one data center. And هنا احنا لسه بنتكلم في الرينج بتاع 1 and 2 and 5. دبي طبعا is way advanced عننا, الإماراتس in general, السعودية, لكن in general في أفريقيا and the Middle East we are still behind. But it's coming. The AI wave is here. It's going to happen. We want to be ready for it. Once we are aware of what's coming, once we are ready for it, it will be much better. The AI, in my opinion, is an efficiency multiplier. That's it. It's not going to take your place. It's whatever you can do. If you can do it with AI, it will improve your efficiency dramatically. That's the name of the game. With that said, I would like to welcome the panelists and start our panel.
اهلا وسهلا وبرحب بحضراتكم جميعا, وخلينا نبدا اولى سيشنز او بانلز ل AIDC النهارده. والنهارده البانل بعنوان The Future of Modern and Mega Data Center. مودريتور, ودعونا نرحب به مستر محمد الغازي, شيرمان WB Engineers, والبانelists او الساده الحضور. دعونا نرحب بدكتور اسماعيل شاكر, CEO شاكر Consultancy Agent Group, و Mr. Finhai Munzara, CEO Africa Data Center, ومستر محمد نصر CEO Telecom Egypt, وأخيرا مستر رانجي Head International BD and Sales SWDC. بنرحب بيهم وخلينا نوه لحضراتكم إن البانل دي فيها ترجمة فورية. شكرا.
Actually, my first question will be to Mr. Mohamed Nasr. The name of our panel is the Modern Data Center. And I just want you to give us a brief of what is the difference between the data center we develop now versus the data center we used to build back in the 90s.
Okay, I haven't seen the 90s, but I think I worked in the global network mainly in subsea, so I've been connected with different data centers globally. And in the areas of requirements, let us first describe, because data centers concept is confused between two things. What is data center is as a location or a room to have servers and data. This is something, and data center as a building, this is something. And this is a confusing part because some people are talking about data center as the data room, but not as the building that is a facility that contains the data itself. And here we are talking about mainly the facility and how big is the facility in terms of megawatt. The requirements of data centers actually to host data. Initially, telecom providers used to be the main user of technology. So telecom providers used to provide legacy services, and before internet we used to provide telecommunication services, mainly voice services. And each of our exchanges and local offices, you can consider as a small data center because it has power and utility and facility to host telecom equipment. And then it started with the internet to use the same telecom rooms to host the data, which we can say that is converted to be a data center to host internet components. By time we started to have the content that need to be hosted, and some of the content used to be hosted within the exchanges, and then it came to be bigger buildings to host multiple content providers, and which we started to have more scale of data centers. With the cloud compute, we started to see a surge on the requirements, and we started to see a different dynamics, which is we need to have availability because it has a certain loads or certain content which we cannot live without it. That's why the resilience mandated that we have more of data centers to protect each other, and then we have seen this model of availability zones, which is they have certain requirements in distance and the protection. With AI, we see a different model, not really related to having availability zones, but ample of power, and the power requirements became the main driver to have the AI load to be worked. So in terms of size, as Ahmed Al-Latif mentioned, that's how is the duplication happening, and this is mainly driven by AI and Gen AI mainly. That is giving us indications that the new data center trends is mainly about how huge to accommodate power requirements. The rack space itself used to accommodate certain power. We were in France and in Europe, we used to talk about 3 kilowatts, and when we went to 8 and 10, we started to see this is big. Now we're talking about more than 50 kilowatts per rack space, and we started to see more. So per the square meter itself, we will see more requirements, which means that it's in the same space itself, you will have more power. This will completely change the design and the requirements, and it will change also the requirements for the ecosystem surrounding it. So we can say simply like the application itself is moving from legacy voice to internet to cloud to AI, and the facilities that contain all of this is also moving with these requirements to take the whole content to another stage.
Thank you, Mohamed. And to follow up with Dr. Shakir, the old data centers, when we were doing a design, we were used to a company or a bank coming to you and say, we have 50 racks or 100 racks, and we would like to design a data center that will accommodate that number of racks, which is not the case now. Now, as a design teams, we refer to data center of megawatt, right? So power is a major factor when it comes to design a data center. And the reason behind it is exactly like what Mohamed Nasr just said, is in the old days, 3 kW was pretty much the average per rack. Now, even without the AI, we see 20 kW and above all the way to 50 kW per rack. So the range is huge, and we cannot determine by the number of racks. It's all about the megawatt. So based on that, and based on the number we just said about Europe and the US, here in the region, how do you see this globally versus the challenges regarding the power that we are facing locally and in Africa in general?
Well, Mohamed, the power demand is completely different now. We used to design data centers not a long time ago in 2018, and now it is completely different. It's a different animal. Let me give you an example. Now the total power consumption of data centers worldwide consume about 3 to 4% of the total power produced globally. McKinsey just issued a report last September, I guess, 2 months ago, saying that by 2030, 11 to 12% of the power produced globally will be consumed by data centers. And this is a huge increase. It's almost threefold. Just to put numbers to make things clearer to the audience, now we are consuming globally 500 terawatt hour. In 2 years, it will be 1,000 terawatt hour. This is almost the production of power in a country like Japan. So now the time to power is one of the key factors in choosing the location and actually getting your data center up and running. And this is all because of the huge demand that's happening primarily by migration to cloud, by the AI, by the digitization in general. And I think, I remember a report issued in May by Goldman Sachs. They are assuming that Europe will need to invest almost €1 trillion to upgrade its power infrastructure to cater for the data centers in Europe in the next 10 years. So it will not just be money injected into the data center, but actually money injected into the power sector. That will be the defining factor on where the next move of data center will be migrating to.
Thank you, Doctor. And now let's talk a little bit about our region here. And again, with the presentation that Ahmed Abdulatif did, we saw the power of Europe, actually even the new players in Asia, and of course the US. But for our region, Mr. Finhai, I would like you to tell me, who do you think will be the new champion in the region for modern data center that is 25 megawatt and above? And I'm sorry, before we do that, I would like actually to invite Mr. Ahmed Mikki to join us, because we need someone to talk about the Middle East more, and Ahmed with Binya and also representing Khazna, I think he will give us a great info. Yes, sir, go ahead.
No, thank you very much. I think from my perspective and Africa Data Centers, which is the co-location division of Cassava, I mean, we have seen, we are currently active in Johannesburg, Cape Town, Nairobi, and Lagos. And actually, when I think Osama put up his slide earlier, it was actually quite good to see that actually the only city there in Africa that we are not in that was on that slide is Cairo. And I think, from my perspective really, and what we're, as we have been following the market, one of the key places that we have plans to try and establish a presence is in Cairo first. I think there's a lot of developments in the industry in terms of just liberalization of the industry. I think Egypt is in a very key location in terms of the connectivity ecosystem, because it really is at this interconnection point between Asia, Middle East, Europe, Africa. So I think that a lot of that connectivity really works to the advantage. We spoke a lot about power and the power requirements. I think Egypt has made a lot of strides as well in putting on renewable energy online, which I think is going to become really critical as we think about how we develop data centers in the future, because not only do we need to make sure that there's power available, but I think we need to, more and more, there's going to be a need to have some of that powered with renewables, so that of course we are also matching decarbonization targets going forward. So I think from where I sit and from where Africa Data Centers and Cassava sits, it's really Egypt and Cairo in the first place is really a key market, and this is a market that I think is prized for development. I think it's got large economy, large enterprises, which, as you see the progression of data centers, enterprises are moving from hosting their own servers on their premises and starting to move those into third-party data centers. So I think being in an economy which has a large enterprise base, large population base, good connectivity, and good access to power, I think Egypt is really poised to be a champion in this region.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Ranjit, I want you to tell us about the challenges. There are several factors to put a data center in a specific city or even a country. Regulations, for example, is one of them. The need, finding the right tenants. So I just want you to talk to us about the challenges that usually a data center developer will face in the region.
I assume the question is to me. So just to clarify, I represent a company which designs and builds data center. So we are not a developer, but I can try and attempt to answer that question.
I can't hear you.
I think the mic is not working. I can't hear you.
So just to clarify, my name is Ranjit, and I represent a company. I head the international space of the business, where we design and build data centers, and we have been doing it for a decade. And so I may not be the best person to address the question from a developer point of view. So if you want to redirect the question to somebody else and come back to me, I'll appreciate that.
Of course, sure. So I would actually refer this question to Mohamed Nasr. I think he's best to answer the challenges, not just in Egypt, but in the region.
Okay, I think whatever the type of data center, if it's to hosting cloud or financial services or for AI, we need to listen to the end user, or who is actually having the load, and what is the requirements for. Because the regulatory conditions will be different based on the content itself. So it's very important to see that sometimes we are talking about would like to reduce the cost. So it's for some applications which it's not that sensitive for continuity, we might be focused on just reducing the cost. And in this case, the requirements will be the lowest cost of power or space, land, connectivity, because this is the main three components needed to work with the load. And in some situations, we need resilience, and we need much resilience, and that's why the conditions will be about how to secure the maximum resilience possible for this workload. So the most important thing is to listen to each other and to listen to the requirements. And there is no one-size-fits-all in this business. So hyperscalers, they need certain requirements. It's not the, for example, some people were having thought that tier 4 data centers is attractive for hyperscalers. It's not the case, because you will pay a lot of cost to deploy tier 4 data centers, but at the same time, the requirements might not be that needed. That's why you might need to reduce the specs of your data centers and to match the cost point which you would be attractive. Because the design they are doing is different from the design you are building for banking services, for example. So the most important thing that if you would like to match from a regulatory and from requirements of a data center workload, you need to listen and understand what is exactly this is the case. And this is a good opportunity for those who we can say missed the cloud era, because the AI has different requirements from the cloud. So we need to listen what is the exact requirements, what is the cost components that's needed, and what's most important for them. Again, I see today power is one of the main critical issues. Not only the cost of the power, but the scalability.
The availability.
Yes,
yeah.
and on longer term, because no one will deploy. When you deploy a data center in a region, you are designing your whole ecosystem as a user for this data center based on this location. So if you are diversifying, you need to diversify and choose other locations which will be connected to this location. So you will build transmission and backbone and fiber network that's connected to this data center. You cannot afford that at certain time you will not be able to scale. However, you build all those infrastructure for this. So it's very important to see scalability and on longer term, because as mentioned by many, data centers is long-term investment. It's not 5-10 years. It's a cycle of 10 years and 10 years and 10 years, and you are exiting and others come and sell and scale up. That's why whoever need to invest in data centers, they need assurance on the scalability. And this is important, again, to listen to each other, and the governments need to listen to users and see what's required to deploy the regulation accordingly.
Thank you, Mohamed. Ahmed, I would like to come to you with a question of, you know who owns the data center, right? So we have the major player, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, and but at the same time, you have companies like Digital Realty and Equinix, who just between the two of them, they control over 30 million square feet of data center IT space. So, in your opinion, who's coming to the region for the mega data center? Is it local companies like Khazna, for example, or you will see a mix between regional companies plus the main world players coming to the region in Africa?
Thank you, Mohamed. Okay, I think if we will differentiate here between the types of the data center, if we're talking about the hyperscale data center and the AI data center, there are specific type, of course, of takers or clients for that. And having a serious investment with that size on a data center in any new country, there are many factors, of course, should be there to enable the making this investment in the data centers, like connectivity, power, and. But of course, above all of that, the demand, the off-taker. I think with that size of the investment, the concept of build it and they will come is not applicable here. Yeah. It might work for a smaller size data center with number of racks and all of that on the few megawatts. But when you go with that size of 25, 30 or above megawatt, and of course, you need before proceeding with this investment to assure that you have this kind of agreement and commitment and appetite and interest in a formal way with one of these names that you mentioned. Egypt is geniusly, geographically positioned, connectivity-wise, center in the world, very central position in the world, which is, there are many factors enabling Egypt to be a hub for such kind of sizable data centers for hyperscale. But this didn't happen for many years. Of course, recently we see lots of activities on that. The investment of the government, of the infrastructure that is to enable that is there. Talents, of course, are there. Demand is growing. But we found that the right model here and the most efficient model is best practice better than the best effort. So having a name with a great experience like Khazna, with their successful track record with these hyperscalers in UAE with big investment there, they have the right practice, they have the right track record, and the trust of these kind of clients. So this is definitely an important factor. This factor helped us a lot. We learned from Khazna on this, and we have value to add on the market here, being on the ground, and we were honored to be trusted by the government of Egypt to build the mega data centers of the government and the disaster recovery and all of that. This had some local experience here on the ground with the technology providers, joining forces together, and this kind of partnership, I think with this kind of partnership and similar model like this, will enable more investments for hyperscalers to come to Egypt and other countries that they do not see that yet, while they are infrastructure-wise or geographical-wise are ready for it.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you very much. Dr. Shakir, back to you on the AI and the data center. I'd like to hear from you how you see the impact of the AI on a data center, actually on a different level. The first level, a power point of view. As you know, of course, the AI requirement is way higher than our typical, 10 kW per rack. But at the same time, how is the AI going to impact the operations and the design of a data center? How it's going to improve, the efficiency of a data center?
Well, AI has a significant impact on data centers. And the reason is the power per rack is jumping from 5 to 10 kilowatts to 50 and 100 kilowatts. This is almost tenfold. The problem when we're designing AI data centers is that the cooling methods that we use in a regular data center are not scalable. That we cannot use them anymore. And the industry is actually coming, and this is simply because of physics. The thermal capacity of air is not big enough. So the industry now is looking for different way of cooling, and we have several ways. Liquid cooling, you have in-rack cooling, you have cooling to chip, and immersion cooling at the end. So the design of the data center is actually a completely different animal. Also, when it comes to power, the regular PDUs, which we use, the power distribution units, we need to upgrade them to a different size. Even as simple as the rack dimension, when it comes to AI, it has to be sometimes a bit deeper to accommodate. So even simple things like rack dimensions are changing. And I remember actually in a report, no, not a report, NVIDIA actually announced that they believe that upgrades to existing data centers will be as expensive as almost $1 trillion, because AI is coming very seriously, and if the market is not able to inject greenfield data centers, we will have to adapt and to upgrade the brownfield data centers we have. And this is not going to be a simple task, but it will be a necessary task to do. Lastly, the AI will also help us in running the data center more efficiently, in a smarter way, because if 40% of the data center consumption only in cooling, then if we focus on making it smarter and more intelligent, it will actually have an impact on the running cost, which is one of the main factors of all the developers. What is the PUE? So it's a game changer having AI into the data center industry.
Thank you very much. And you mentioned the PUE, and I think it's again it's a very important topic, and we're going to cover this on other panels. But it is now, in my opinion, it's the name of the game. And Mr. Finhai, I think your customers, for example, on data centers, is the PUE or the factor that the relationship between the total power and the power that's actually used at the IT. How does this impact your tenants and their desire to be in your data center?
Sorry, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. I think that's a very important topic, as you said. I think there are really two things that we track quite carefully. I think the first one is WUE, which is the efficiency of the water. So what we do at our data centers is that we use a closed loop system for cooling. We know that we're in a region, Africa in general, which has challenges around water as well. So it's something that we look at quite heavily to make sure that from a water perspective, we're not using too much water to actually cool. I think back on the PUE, which is really, really critical and central. And really what that is really just how efficiently your data center is running. Because of course you are powering the equipment for our customers, but we also have to power, the rest of the data center, the air conditions or chillers and that sort of thing. So how efficiently are you doing that? We try and very, very hard, and we are constantly driving down the PUE and effectively being more efficient. One of the critical ways to do that, and talking about older designs of data centers where you had a big hole and all the air is being cooled into the hole. We've spent a lot of time now doing a lot of containment where you effectively make sure that you're trapping all the cold air within a containment for the racks, so that cools them more efficiently. So that's the traditional way. I think a lot of the new designs that we have now, particularly we've just opened a new hall in Cape Town, which now has a different, instead of cooling from the bottom, we now have cooling in terms of fan walls. That helps particularly around high density racks that Dr. Shekhar spoke about. And I think we spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's the most efficient way we can cool this, because I think answering a question directly, with all the hyperscale or customers, or as they like to be called now, web scalers, they are actually very, very focused on, if I'm going to house my equipment with you, how efficiently are you actually using power to actually power my equipment? And this is something that we need to report on in terms of what we actually report, and it's tracked, and we have to make commitments around improving that if it's out of the scale. So it's really, really important. But I also wanted to touch on another point, I think, of Dr. Shekhar, which is around as data centers actually, as we need to have more and more new technology in terms of cooling, I actually think in a way the opportunity for places like the Middle East and Africa, I think, is because we don't have a lot of brownfields to upgrade. It's actually an opportunity as we build these greenfield projects, as we build hyperscale data centers, we're actually designing them with the future in mind. We're designing them with the right kind of cooling configuration, making sure that the sizing from sort of floor to ceiling heights are correct, so that you can actually include some of the technologies around liquid cooling, around immersion, and all of that. So I think, in a way, almost like the mobile industry where we leapfrogged the kind of fixed line, in a way, because we've lagged, we're able to actually develop the actual solutions now with the right kind of configuration, with AI in mind, and designing for the future.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And Mr. Jet, this question for you about the size. How do you see the future of data centers globally and specifically in our region from a size point of view? Do you think we're going to see more of the smaller data center, like a 1 megawatt up to 5 megawatt, or we will see more of the 50 megawatt plus?
Thank you for the question. So in terms of the size of the data centers, and that's the theme of this discussion as well, there is a bit of a consolidation in terms of which are the prime areas where the data center deployment should happen across the world. So for instance, in Africa, we can see a pattern where 4 countries are emerging as where the data center capacity is being consolidated. Obviously, where we are sitting today, Egypt is a prime data center market, Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa. And why these markets are getting consolidated, the reasons are obvious. Demographic dividend, number of people who reside here, the technological development, the wave of 5G, on-prem to cloud deployment. So all these reasons bring about data center capacity getting deployed. And now the next wave is the AI. Similarly, across the world, even within the US, we see areas like Virginia, Atlanta, Phoenix, where the capacity is getting consolidated. We are an India headquartered company, and within India, we see a capacity getting consolidated in Mumbai, Chennai, Noida, and Bangalore. And within Asia Pacific, obviously, there are other markets. But along with these consolidated markets, there is definitely the edge capacity that would need to be created. So for instance, a person watching Netflix in a tier 2 or a tier 3 city, not as big as the prime markets, would need the equal bandwidth and equal speed to have a good live experience of watching the live content. And for that to happen, ultimately the capacity will have to roll out onto the frontier markets or the new markets. So that we have seen this happening in more developed markets where the consolidated or the prime markets grow first, and then over the period of time, the tier 2 or the tier 3 markets also shape up, and the capacity gets rolled out. Coming to specifically to the capacity part, today in the African region, we are seeing capacity getting deployed anywhere between 1 megawatt to up to, on an average, 15 megawatts, depending on the location. Whereas in the European and the American markets, it is 50 megawatt or above. In India, we are seeing hyperscalers deploying single building 50 megawatts, single building. And that's huge. So, the amount of power, the water, all those challenges start happening, and then we need to start planning for that. What's the nature of your power? Is it renewable? Is it non-renewable? And how do you do the disaster management? How do you do the backups? So, I think ultimately every market will reach that stage. Even within Africa now, there, particularly South Africa, I think 20 to 50 megawatt ranges are being seen. Even with the AI coming in, we will see that level going up. And within Egypt also, obviously, I think that is bound to happen. And as the prime markets move from 5 megawatt to a 20 megawatt, the tier 2 and the tier 3 markets will move up from a few kW, 100 of kW, to a 2 or a 5 megawatt. So it's a matter of time.
Great, thank you very much. All right, and finally, I'd like to ask one question to actually each of our panelists here, and I'll start with Ahmed Mekki. He's the closest to me here. So I want you to name 3 cities, right, that will championship the data center in our region, in the MEA region, in the next 5 years. So, and I don't want you to put I wish, I want you to really tell me what you think. Your 3 cities.
Yeah, I mean, just quick without thinking a lot, yani? Just
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just a quick answer from the top of my head. If you want to limit to 3, so I believe I will say countries, and depends on the cities in these countries. So it's Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Egypt. So
right.
these are the 3 countries.
Mr. Finhai, what do you think?
I think I might be biased in terms of where we operate, but I would say Lagos, Cairo, and Riyadh.
Cairo, 2 Cairos so far. That's great. All right, Dr. Shakir.
I'm going to choose Cairo. We're already here. So Cairo is an obvious choice.
Right.
And I will go with Ahmed's actually decision. I think it is Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. Yeah.
Nice. Mohamed?
I think I will agree also with Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. Yeah.
All right.
Well, my
Mr.
answer
Ranjit?
is exactly the same, but in order to be different, I will add UAE to the list. So Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt, and Nigeria. I took the freedom to add one more to the list.
Right. Right, that's great. So I think Emirates and Egypt, they are on the top of the list. This is good news for the people here. So I would like to thank our panelists. Thank you very much. I also want you to know that right after this one, we have a presentation from Telegeography. For you who attended PTC in Hawaii or ITW in Washington, the Telegeography presentation is usually one of the best presentations you can ever attend. Lots of statistics, it's when I attend the PTC, and Ahmed and Mohamed, they're all, attended this. It is the presentation that we attend. So Patrick Christian is here from, I don't see him, but I know that here he is. He is the legend, and he will actually talk to us about statistics, data centers, and connectivity in general. So thank you very much, and I'd like to welcome Patrick to the stage.